Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Redivining Yourself. So don't forget to like and subscribe this podcast on your platform that you prefer. And today's episode is really from a conversation that I had with my sister. And I don't think she'll mind me sharing it because I think it's something that we all need to hear right now. So let's get started. Now, the conversation that I had with my sister recently was on a day when she was feeling particularly low. Now, first things first, you have to understand that my sister and I think really were supposed to be born as twins. We are 18 months apart. We are incredibly close. Our hearts, our minds, we share a lot in common in that aspect. We couldn't be more different in terms of our personalities, our body types. Like, we are two very different people. It's my older sister that I'm actually more like a twin with. We look alike, we talk alike, we have the same body type. People mistake us as twins all the time. But this particular day, I was having a conversation with my sister that I'm closer to in age. Now, when I say that she was kind of at a low point, we don't need to go into all the details there, but just know that just like you, she was down, feeling the weight of the world. She was feeling very heavy, and it felt like nothing was working. It just sort of felt like this very down moment. So I'm assuming that you have had some times like that in your life too. And as we began talking, one of the things that she mentioned to me was that she felt really disconnected from spirit, from source, from magic. And I've been there. I have been in that place many times before. And it happens sometimes without us even recognizing it, until we are so weighed down by everything that's going on around us that we cannot really name, that all of the sudden we start to just sort of feel like we're lost, that, we're disconnected from everything. And so the conversation really was, in my mind, something that was an experience that I had that actually has a name, and it's something that maybe you're experiencing right now yourself. Now, it's actually called a spiritual crisis. Now, a spiritual crisis is, I guess, similar in some ways to a normal crisis, a mental health crisis, or a life crisis, except that we are intentionally trying to feel connected to something other than ourselves. And that's what in particular makes it feel like a spiritual crisis. So that normally, if we feel like we're seeing particular numbers, 333, 1111, right? And we see all those, and then that stops. And then life becomes really heavy. Or we just feel like we don't have a direction in our lives. Things aren't working. And this is absolutely normal. So I want to preface this by saying, congratulations, you're normal if you have experienced this yourself. If you feel like, wow, there is nobody guiding me, there is no protection, I don't feel like I am being held right now, that is normal, particularly in the world that we live in right now. So you're normal. We know that. And then the question becomes, what do we do with that? If we are feeling so disconnected from source, from magic, from spirit. What do we do when we get to that point? And mostly, of course, I can tell you what, speaking from my experience, what that was like. And I can also share with you a little bit of the wisdom that I shared with her that was able to lift her mood and shift things for her. And I'm going to tell you that you're going to go through it again and again. You're going to forget. You're going to forget that you are connected to something, to some entity, to something that is bigger than you. You are going to forget that. Just know that. And I'm also going to tell you that you will kind of not only go in and out of feeling this connection to something bigger than you, and this is why we have rituals and ceremonies and why we continue to focus on this every day, is that even when we feel like we are not being held or guided or protected, it's still there. Spirit's like, hey, girl, call me. I'm just on the other side. I'm just waiting for you to kind of figure out that your head is so wrapped up in your problems right now and you are way overthinking things. And I need you to come back, reel you back in, it is there no matter what. And when I say it, I mean spirit is there no matter what. So those days when you feel the lowest, those days when you feel like you don't matter, when nothing that you are doing is working, or the weight of it all is just going to crush you, I do want you to know that you are still held and protected and guided. The difference is that you just lost your way a little bit and you forgot. And you forgot that that is always there. It's always available to you. Now, my experience directly with this came at a time when, life happens. Life was happening to me. And I've spoken about one of my health crises that I've had, but I'll be honest, I've had several. And this particular health crisis, I think, was one that was certainly the most recent one that I've had. And I'll be honest with you, I was not prepared for it. I have been dealing with menopausal symptoms for years now. And again, that's a whole nother podcast. But just know that as women, we have stages of our lives, and they start to arrive before we are even aware of it. So for most of us menopausal women, yes, you and your doctor have probably talked about, is it perimenopause? Is it just menopause? Is it post-menopause? There are phases to the phases. And I believe that this is true. But I was going through it, and I was miserable. My menopausal symptoms prevented me from getting out of bed some days, it felt like. I was in so much pain that I literally could not walk from my bed to the bathroom, and they are very close together. The pain in my body was so significant that it was as if I could literally feel all of the tendons around my hips disintegrating, like they were just breaking down and they were weakening. And it was so painful. And I did not know what to do about that. And then came all the other symptoms: sleeplessness, weight gain, fatigue, constant fatigue, skin variations, right? Suddenly my skin was so dry. It was hanging. It just got to the point where I literally had no idea whose body I was in. It was as if somebody had come in overnight, taken my old body and put me into this other one. And as much as I was trying to give myself and my body so much grace and so much love and so much compassion, I will admit to you, I was unable, it seemed, to find that. I was grumpy, I was tired, I was not having it. And I'm so connected to my body, and I have been for my entire life, that it felt like a betrayal. It felt like literally like a betrayal of, WTF, like what happened in this body. I had never imagined that this could happen to me. I was always very active and moving all the time. And I just always felt so embodied and so happy to be in my body. And I think a lot of us menopausal women, all my crone friends out there, can identify with this, at least some part of it on some level. And it usually or often can be a health crisis that tailspins into a spiritual crisis. Because most of us, the first question we ask is, why is this happening to me? Why? And there's nothing like our health to remind us of the wealth that we have when we are healthy. And it's only when that's taken away or when we're living in pain every single day that we do begin to question a lot of things. And I don't think I had ever felt so disconnected from source, from spirit, from my body. To me, body is spirit. Body is source. It is life itself. And this seemed like, kind of a cruel little joke that life was playing on me and spirit. And one of my really dear friends gifted me a book, and it changed everything because I really was feeling so disconnected from myself, from my body, from spirit, from magic. And there's nothing like pain to take you out of feeling magic. And I've seen this happen with many of my mentors too, where they face a health crisis and you feel very disconnected. And so that's why I say your health and your spirituality are very deeply connected. And especially if you view your body as your temple, which I have for most of my life. And so this was a really jarring experience. And when my mentors had brought it up in the past, I felt deeply for them. But I admit, I questioned. I was like, now, how can that be? That just because you're having a health issue, that all of a sudden you feel disconnected from spirituality? I'm here to tell you that's a very real thing. And part of the reason why is because the culture that we're living in makes your transition into this actually wondrous phase of your life where you are no longer procreating life. Instead, you are relying upon your wisdom and relying upon the things that you know to be true, but largely from a remembrance of what you have learned and what you have experienced in your life. It's a massive transformation in a woman's life. And the impact is felt by everybody around you because you can no longer do the things you used to do. And you no longer are this bright, sunny, cheerful person. And you don't want to do the things that you used to do. It literally changes your entire, it did for me, it changed my entire approach to my day. And it was just very jarring, and I just really struggled with, how am I going to stay connected to Source? So when my friend, Hannah, it's a shout out to Hannah, when she purchased the book for me called Haggitude, that's Haggitude, right? We called, or in several cultures and several countries, we refer to older women as hags. And you could picture exactly what that is, right? White, wiry hair, very messy. She's got a wart on her nose. Her skin is sagging. She definitely is not pretty by our standards, certainly. And, she's gone into the woods to just live her life in isolation and to make potions. And, she's someone that people might seek out to, create a potion or cast a spell or something. And admittedly, that's not very appealing. But Sharon Blackie does an extraordinary job of explaining, of reminding, of reconnecting the dots to just how powerful a phase of this life, of this magnitude of our lives is. Because it is no small thing. When our estrogen and all the other hormones leave your body, that is going to create, particularly for me, may not be for everybody. I've seen friends that have breezed through menopause, like no big deal. And there are some underlying health issues that I think largely have contributed to that, to my experience being so challenging. Again, that's probably for another day. But that book changed everything for me because she named all of it. She named the way that our bodies change when we enter this phase of our life. She named that there is a grieving that happens when we lose that connection, when we lose our youth, when we lose our youthful looks, when we lose that version of ourselves that we thought we had known and we had known for so many years of our lives. And she named that wondrous and magical part of ourselves that I really felt licensed and delightful in reclaiming. There was this piece of me that in our culture, youth is everything, right? We're constantly recycling 20-year-olds and, there's a new batch of them all the time. And so the entire focus of our culture is on youth. It's on maintaining that youth and having that appearance and sustaining it. And many people go to extraordinary lengths to try and maintain those good looks and those youthful looks. And no shame here, no judgment here. I always said, I'll never say never because I don't know what I'll do when I begin to look in the mirror and not love what is. To date, I haven't done anything about it, really, because I don't like to be in pain and I don't like medical procedures. So, but again, I'll never say never. because I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to really embrace this phase of my life and really befriend this very natural, very normal, and actually, in my mind, truly divine event that's going to happen in all of our lives, including men. Like, they're not going to put their menses on pause, but they're going to experience aging too. And this was such a difficult time for me, but when she went into, I highly recommend you read this book, because especially if you are experiencing a spiritual crisis, or you're an older woman like me, or you're struggling with all of those wonderful side effects of menopause, because she reminded me of what an extraordinary phase of our life this can be, of how hard-earned it is that we have gotten to this point. And just because our culture doesn't prefer older women, they don't value older people, period, but particularly older women, not cool to age. And because of that, and the way that we have been taught to loathe our bodies and loathe the changes that we see, and to be really self-deprecating and very dismissive of, this powerful phase of our lives, it just reminded me of all of those hard-earned and hard-fought-for times in my life where, in order to be seen, I had only to be young. But there's so much more to see here now. There's so much more of me here that is to be loved and embraced, and to be curious about, and to have fun with, and to explore, and to give so much compassion for everything that's come before this. There is so much more of me to love in this phase of my life than in any other phase. And this was part of the spiritual crises that my sister and I talked about as well. We're both in that phase of our lives, obviously. She's 18 months older than me. I don't think menopause has hit her as hard as it has me. However, anyone who goes through this massive change in their life is going to notice some shifts. You're going to notice how disconnected you are from what you have known for possibly 50 years of your life, 45. I mean, every woman is different, right? It comes at a different age. But if you spend 40 or 50 years being one person in your life and then that changes, you're going to notice. You are going to notice. I'm going to bet that you're going to notice that. It will not go unnoticed. And the best that we can do is to honor those changes. But that's easier said than done. So part of our conversation was not just about how low she was feeling and how disconnected she was feeling from spirit, from source. Part of it is also acknowledging this different phase of our lives. We are in the afternoon of our lives. And the mornings that we used to have don't exist anymore. They probably shouldn't exist anymore, right? And it's interesting because if you've done any reading or exploration of Carl Jung's work, he actually talks about this. And I'm not going to say it as eloquently as someone else might, but bear with me. that Carl Jung really kind of divided our lives into two parts. And the first part of our life was really devoted to ego reimbursement, I call it, right? It was investing in your ego, trying to get the job that you wanted to get, right? To climb that career ladder and be that person who was seen, who was paid well, who was valued. We spend the majority of the first part of our lives just trying to satisfy the ego, right? We have all those benchmarks of like, we're acquiring things. We're in the process of doing. And in that doing, we're hoping that we can acquire a partner, that we can maybe acquire some children, acquire a job, a house, the cars, all the things that say to the world, you're a success. Like, wow, we see you. You're amazing. And that's the first phase of our life. So the focus is largely, in many ways, seeking validation outside of ourselves. And this is something you are probably also familiar with, and it's okay to admit it, right? Who doesn't want the perfect career? Who doesn't want that perfect job? Who doesn't want that perfect body and get paid well for any one of those things, right? So many people desire that or admire that in other people. But at some point, you will enter the second phase of your life. And how you handle that has so much to do with how connected you are to yourself, to your body, and I'm going to say in a really spiritual way, not just in a very shallow, very egoistic way, but in a way that allows you to reconcile what is really happening to you in that moment and to be okay with it. I mean, there's nothing like relationship issues. There's nothing like your family of origin and the challenges that arise around that. And there's nothing like a health crisis or coming into a really massive transition in your life to make you question yourself, your connection, why are you here? And that's kind of a big deal when the person that you identified with is no longer the person that you are now. You probably are going to have a bit of a spiritual crisis. So this is why it's so important that we talk about this. And the conversation was so beautiful. And my intention was not necessarily to bring her mood up, but my intention was just to highlight that fact that no wonder you feel the way that you feel right now. Because you are, in fact, in the second phase of your life. The phase where you are no longer feeling the need or being able to fulfill the need to feed your ego in the way that you did before. When you're used to doing and the world only knows you for your doing and you can no longer do things, there's going to be a disparity there. You are going to have to reconcile with the fact that you are different now. And your life and the way that you have been living it is going to require a different version of you. And when we have those spiritual crises, a health crisis, a change of identity, when things literally in your body are changing so greatly that you are grasping at any semblance of your former self, it's time to maybe reinvent yourself And it's time to remember just how spiritually connected you really are. So when I was reading this book, Haggitude, and Sharon Blackie was talking about other cultures, other societies, ancient societies, in fact, because it's certainly not prevalent in our current culture, nor has it really been in the last 200 years. Has it been okay for women to age? And really, I don't think it's been acceptable for thousands of years. That is something that's really not desired. And this second phase of life, the wisdom that you have in your body, the experiences that you have had, the wisdom that you have gained from learning things through experience or through wisdom teachings or from reading or anywhere else that you get your information from. That wisdom and that experience that you have at this stage of your life is really profound. It is so far-reaching, and it is a different kind of connection to Source that, to me, is only deepened by the fact that we know that our time is running out. We know that we don't have the time, the energy, the resources, or the desire to put that much effort into just existing, honestly. And we shouldn't have to. Your existence and other people's approval of your existence is not the point of being here. It is not the point of being here. So that spiritual connectivity that you have to that very question of who am I and why am I here is not going to be found in the way that you look or the car that you own or the house that you own. It's just not. All of that could go away tomorrow, and you still have to answer the question, who am I? And why am I here? And as we were talking, my sister and I were talking about this second half of life, I also felt really called to remind her of something that I had forgotten. And it's something we all do. Again, you're going to forget this. I guarantee you that even after you listen to this episode, you are going to forget this at some point, and you're just going to get busy with life and all the doing, and you're going to forget that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, and you are still so divinely guided and held and protected. You're going to forget. And if you can remember, then kudos to you. But 99% of the people that I encounter, they forget, and they just need a reminder. And that reminder is that at any given moment, all you have to do is ask. All you have to do when you are on the floor in complete surrender, lost as anything, don't know what to do, don't know why you're here, don't know who you are, that moment that you lay down on that floor and you question everything is the moment for you to remember to ask. Ask for a sign. That could be, when I was really struggling, I remember thinking, okay, what animal totem, what spirit guide, what sign, what symbol would make the most, would create the deepest sense of connection for me to Source in this moment. And the way that I asked for this from Spirit was I basically said, okay, so if you're still with me, if you're still here, send me like a recurring symbol or word that I would be able to recognize, that would tell me and remind me that, oh yeah, no, actually, I am still very connected. And so after I had finished reading Hagitude, I kind of put it to the side and I thought, okay, I need to come back to myself. No more validation from the outside world or any paying attention to any sense of, like, it was literally, I just needed to say, I don't care what other people think of me. That was super helpful. And then I needed to make sure that I was okay and that I came back into myself and into my body. And so I remember thinking, if there's a symbol, a word, an image, something that would help me remember, then Spirit keeps sending it to me. And it's going to be something that somewhere deep inside of me I know is true for me, but I don't know. It's going to be something new. It needs to be something new so that it'll affirm this reinvention, this reincarnation of myself, right? It'll affirm this new version of myself. So in some ways, I was still seeking validation and legitimacy, but it was from Source this time, right? Not from the people in my life. And interestingly enough, do you want to know what the word is that kept appearing for me? Dragons. And I know it sounds crazy, and I love that it sounds crazy. But it's been interesting because I've started studying Western esotericism and Carl Jung and the divine feminine and the deep, rich, hidden history that is there, the herstory that is there. And the one word that kept recurring that I had not connected with, that I had not really thought of, that I did not feel any sense of embodiment or connection to, even historically, right? Other than Game of Thrones. Most people know, I don't even remember who it was, the young woman that was riding the dragons. I don't remember who she was. You could probably tell me. I would appreciate it, in fact. But her connection to the dragons was so foreign to me. It just felt like, okay, that's interesting. She's riding a dragon. Wow, that's pretty cool. And it's pretty cool that the way that they created that on screen. But when I kept hearing that word over and over and over again, I started to realize that was Spirit saying to me, here's this part of you that you didn't know about, that you need to know about, that is within you, that has been the stuff of legends for eons, and it has remained hidden away from you, and it is part of your lineage that you now should focus on reclaiming, that you should identify with. And the more that I've gone down that beautiful wormhole and well of looking into the significance of dragons and women, it has 100% reaffirmed my connection not only to Spirit and Source, but to my own divinity. And that divinity that lies within every single one of us women. And we have all been cut off from that, severed from that history and I keep saying history, and I really want to say her story. But I truly think that this is the time when we should all be reconnecting to that symbol, to that deep, rich herstory, and to what it really signifies and means for us. And it's a lot to go into, so I really do want to save that. I promise you that I will have an episode on that in the very near future to talk about that. I'm still doing some research on it. And so I want to be able to really bring it to you fully and completely and do it justice when I do bring it to you. But I really do feel like right now, it was really just sort of me taking that initiative to learn more, to go inward more, to be curious, and to honestly, most importantly, ask. And I know it sounds really simple, but I invite you to try it out. Because our world is not created for you to even take time out to do these things. We're all so focused on doing, we forget that being is a thing. And it can come to you in your dreams. Those images or words or symbols or totems or messages, literal just messages from somebody else, that we forget how connected we are, and we just get so wrapped up with the doing that we forget that all we have to do is just be and tune back into the rhythms that are within our bodies, the rhythms of life, the rhythms of the cycles of life. Like, the signs are all around us. And we just we forget to look. We get so tunnel vision, we put our blinders on and we're only focused on this. And we forget that there's a whole nother world out there that we are forgetting. There's a whole nother world of wonder and awe that can remind us how deeply connected we are. And as soon as I said to my sister, all this, I completely understand what you are feeling, and I can understand why you're feeling so disconnected right now. And I'm sorry for the weight of the world being upon you or feeling like you're carrying all of that. But there are signs everywhere, and all you have to do is ask. Ask. Spirit will be, on the other end of the phone going, oh, wait, she's calling. Guys, she's calling. Be quiet. Let me talk to her. And I joke about it and make light of it, but every single time I have had a spiritual crisis in my life, a health crisis, something that takes me down, that brings me down, that feels like it takes me out, it has worked every single time. And as soon as you connect to that, it changes everything. It changes the way that you view the world, yourself, others, your experiences. And I know that there's more to this that we could talk about, but I really felt like this conversation had to be talked about. And it served as such a good reminder for me to talk about this and to talk about something that's very real, and something that we all will experience from time to time. And you could go to a yoga class, or, you can meditate, and you can do all of those things that are deemed spiritual. But honestly, it really can be just as simple as you asking for help, guidance, connection, reconnection, a sign, a symbol, a song, anything. Anything that you can think of. Maybe it's an oracle card that you need to pull that will tell you exactly that thing that you're needing to hear, to integrate, to remember. It's just that simple. Don't make it harder than it has to be, because life is already hard enough. So, if my sisters are listening to this, I love you. You're magical unicorns, and I love you. And thank you for reminding me of all of the things that we all go through and giving me the opportunity to share it here. And just remember how divine you are and how connected you are, especially when you don't feel like you are. Hope you all take all of this into your hearts and into your beings, and let me know your thoughts. I'm curious about what you heard today, what resonated with you. Thanks for joining me. Until next time.